All right, all right, all right. Woo! Anybody who gets on this one's in for a treat for sure. I am really fired up this morning. Let's make sure we've got audio real quick before we get going here. Let's see. Very special edition Jumpstart session today. So let's see here. All right, we got one on. If you can hear me, just want to make sure. Sometimes we've had audio. All right, there we go. Good deal. Rock and roll. All right. All right, everybody. So super excited to do this little jumpstart session for everybody. I see posts all the time about, of course, cameras and technology and lenses and all that wonderful stuff. And I recently just saw a post about, buying a Red camera for $20,000. And I guess it's a $33,000 or $38,000 package. Let me tell you a little bit, not just from my perspective, but from at least half a dozen or more production companies that I either coach or am friends with, or agencies that range in revenue from $200,000 a year to over $20 million a year, and give you a little perspective on when might be the right decision to make the decision to buy a Red camera or a $10,000 plus camera. Because I'm not here to tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. I don't ever typically tell people what they should or shouldn't do. I don't care what people do. I don't, I don't like seeing people make decisions that might not be the best decision and making it for the wrong reasons. We think that it is the cameras and the technology. It's the wand. And I have a phrase I say, it's the wizard, not the wand. And so many times we think that it's the wand. We think it's the piece of equipment that will make us appear more professional, that will allow us to get better clients, will allow us to charge more money. There was a guy I knew who had, I think it was a $50,000 Red. I'm not as well versed in these cameras anymore. And I remember talking to him, and he was on the verge of selling that camera because he could not pay his bills. Now, why? Shouldn't the camera automatically? I had a kid once tell me, he goes, I just got this camera, I should be able to charge more money. Well, yes, hypothetically, you should be able to charge more money. That doesn't mean you will be able to charge more money. See, because typically the thing is that is an external confidence builder. It is not an internal confidence builder. A lot of people who have the fanciest gear, now granted, there's always nuances to this, and mind you, there are for sure particular situations where it warrants certain pieces of gear and equipment. I'm not here to talk about the nuance of which specific situations this might warrant. I'm here to talk about the majority of the people who are out there doing videos right now who don't even generate $100,000 a year, who are thinking about buying $20,000 and $30,000 and $50,000 cameras. And I can promise you that going from $30,000 a year in revenue and buying a $30,000 camera is not going to allow you to then go to $400,000 in revenue because you bought that camera. There is so much more in play internally, because a lot of us, we get these things because we don't believe in ourselves. We don't have any self-worth or self-confidence, so we believe that the bigger and badder we look externally, that obviously the more worth that we have. But that's a flawed way of thinking and doing things. The person I was talking to recently, we're talking about this idea that the older I get, the more people will take me seriously. That is a flawed mindset as well. I used to think that way. When I was an 18-year-old kid, I used to think, who's going to pay me more than $500? Who's going to take me seriously? See, the thing was, the fact that I didn't take myself seriously, the fact that I did not believe in myself, the fact that I thought someday people might, but today they won't, the reality was they didn't. Plain and simple. The reality was, because I didn't take myself seriously, because I didn't have the confidence, because I didn't believe in myself, neither did the people that I'm trying to sell to. See, it didn't matter what I owned, because in those first few years, I kept buying more and more and more and more cameras and technology. And back in the day in 2006, a 500 gig hard drive was $500. Now there's you can get a freaking 10 terabyte hard drive for that much. And so all the things that I had to purchase to get going, I had a glide cam or steady cam flyer pilot, whatever it was $4,000, the arm, the whole rig, the RoboCop setup. I used it a few times. For my situation, it didn't matter. And the guy who convinced me to buy that thought I put my demo reel together with that, and I showed him. I was so proud because it was all shot on a glide cam 2000 HD handheld. And so here's the thing that I found through the years, that being able to charge a premium for what it is that you do and to get better clients and get them to trust you and get them to, allow you to be what I say kind of the master chef and not Subway. That ability for you to do and be trusted is not because of what you use. And so I have multiple examples of scenarios. In fact, if you search, some of you are listening to this podcast, but there's a Tony Robbins video we did for his Date with Destiny. And that particular video we shot on Canon 7Ds and Canon 5D Mark IIs. Okay? And, that was over a 6-figure project. I have a buddy of mine who's doing schools and nonprofits and does over $300,000 a year shooting for schools and nonprofits, which is an average price tag on the videos from anywhere from, on the low end, $8,000, but really averaging $15,000 to $25,000 for projects with schools and nonprofits. And they're typically shooting the projects on Canon 5D Mark IIIs and Canon 70Ds. And so now those don't even shoot in 4K. Right? But none of his clients are requesting that this be shot on 4K, that he has a C200, C100, RED, or any of that. None of them even know that lingo. It's all being viewed online, and it is more than ample, because all I see from different videos are people going, I can't even tell the difference between the $5,000 and the $50,000 camera, or the iPhone and the RED. Like, they can't really tell the difference. The super trained eye can, but your clientele who you're speaking to, 99% of the time, except for the nuanced people who are working in situations where it 100% warrants shooting in 8K or shooting on RED, going to theatrical release, going on Netflix. But for your average client, those things, it doesn't mean don't shoot with great gear. It doesn't mean, hey, get out the VHS camera and shoot. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is right now, there are $1,000 to $5,000 cameras that you could build businesses that you could get to $400,000 or $500,000 or more. Even somebody I know, they have a $20 million agency, and they still are shooting on cameras that are less than 10 grand. There are specific scenarios, again, that they shoot potentially with a RED, depending on the purpose of the content, but the majority is still shot. There are people right now in this group and listening who are shooting on fancier gear and fancier equipment and not even making $50,000 a year than people who have got $20 million companies, because you're convinced that it is the gear that is going to allow you to get better clients, charge higher rates. There is some truth to that. But if you don't have an internal confidence, an internal belief, an internal certainty, an internal, clarity about what it is that you do, it doesn't matter what you own. There are plenty of people, like I said earlier, that are buying these things that are needing to sell them back because they're not able to pay their bills because they're not making money. So why is that? If they have the camera that should allow them to automatically have amazing clients, charge higher rates, what's happening to them? What is the problem there? And then why are there people right now? I know one buddy of mine, he did $180,000 last year. He's still on a Canon, I believe, 60D. Like, it's crazy. And there we go. Shooting a 25K video on two Sony A7 IIIs next week. I agree 100%. Yes, exactly. $25,000 video, two A7 IIIs, right? 100%. 100%. And so anybody who's out there thinking, well, do I buy this? Those are like $1,800? I had a buddy who I did coaching with, known for years. He used, I believe, T2Is for the first 4 years of his business to get his wedding business off the ground and going until he upgraded to Sony A7 IIIs. 4 years in business. See, so many of you haven't made it. It's like going back to get another degree. I have I don't. I have 2 doctorates, but you know what? I can't get a job. Must need a 3rd one. No, that's a flawed mentality that if I go back to school, I'll then be able to get a job because I obviously don't have enough education. I obviously need another degree, right? My camera I'm currently using, I can't seem to get any jobs or make any money. So if I get a better camera, that's obviously going to allow me to now get jobs and get money. See, if you can't get, quote unquote, as Dale's saying there, a $25,000 job with an $1,800 camera, you're not going to get a $25,000 job with a $50,000 camera because there's so much that is internal. And then there's also just simply the awareness, right? If nobody knows who you are today, how do you think by buying that? That's the if you build it, they will come. That's the field of dreams. I talk about the field of lies. I'm just playing words there. But like, if you build it, they can come. So when we own these things, it doesn't mean that the potential out there to get higher paying jobs, to get certain clients, to get certain things that you couldn't get with these inferior cameras isn't possible. But it's improbable if these other factors are not in play for you already, right? Certain people who do these things, certain people that we all look up to, we don't know all their situations because certain people can do it and they can pay, maybe cash with it, and that's fine. But when I see people more likely to spend cash or spend $20,000 on something external, but they won't spend any money to work on the internal, that's a problem. My biggest thing through my career was that I spent so much and gotten so much debt by thinking that it was the wand and not the wizard. And, quite frankly, we live and learn, right? Like doing things is our biggest, right. You can't buy Tiger Woods golf clubs and ultimately become Tiger Woods. People ask, Stephen King what kind of pencil he writes. Buying the pencil doesn't matter, right? Anybody you look up to who's your favorite vlogger and YouTuber. I've done work for It's Judy's Life. They have millions of subscribers. We've made a couple videos for them. They got millions of views. We did one at Disney last year. The majority, they have billions, I think now, views on their YouTube channel. The majority of their videos were done on a Canon PowerShot. Shooting like this every day. Shooting like this every day. Every day. The commitment for them to be out there shooting a video each and every single day and putting it on YouTube for over 8 years has garnered them a really, really, really nice living. And so, but it was shot on a Canon PowerShot. And so again, I'm on here today as a plea to not tell people what camera to buy, that they should or shouldn't buy a Red or a certain camera. I just want you to really think for a second about what things you're choosing to invest in that are external things. People buy fancy cars, fancy houses, fancy all these things. They're the lawyer, they got the fancy degrees. All these things is because they don't feel good about themselves on the inside. There are plenty of people right now who don't have college degrees, aren't as talented as you, et cetera, that from a financial level we'll just go to are doing far better than the people with all the certificates and all the degrees and all the film schools and all the everything. See, I even say everybody has access on certain levels for paid or free because it's also affordable to the exact same information. And I remember reading something from Warren Buffett. He goes, I'm reading the same newspapers. I'm reading the same white papers. I'm reading the same everything that everybody else has access to. Right? Everybody has access to the same information. So is it the information? Is it the cameras? Is it the technology? Is that what the problem is? That you don't have the better camera, the better degree, the better certificate, the better external thing? See, what I've learned is the shift that I've seen in my life and others' lives when the internal, everything about them, they have this shift. We'll call it the shift. They have this shift, and the shift happens. The same as happens, right? But this shift happens, and nothing externally changes, but their whole world changes. See, the 18-year-old kid who doesn't believe in himself, which I was back in the day, the biggest thing different, you take off my glasses, you shave my face, and I pretty much look the same. And I'm going to share real quick again. I've shared this before. This is an example here. Whoop, wrong thing. Here we go.
In 10 years, I hope to have a very successful business with my video production stuff. As you can tell, I'm not the actor, not at all. I like to be behind the camera in front of this, putting stuff together. An amazing 2011. I started with nothing, and I've just surrounded myself with really good people. And anything's possible. I'm kind of goofy and kind of awkward in front of the camera, because again, I like to be behind it.
Hey everybody, it's Michael Gevin here, and I'm super excited to be with you on Wednesday. We're going to do this video in 60 seconds or less. Thank you very much. Just kidding. All right, let's go at it. So I am fired up. Find what you're passionate about, but keep trying. Even in my trying to find what lights me up, I keep failing. I keep doing things. I keep trying so I can find that thing. All right, so for those of you who can't see it, you can hear it. But the difference in my business from the 18-year-old kid is like, hey, I just, I kind of like to be behind the camera, and, I don't really like to be in front of the camera, but, I kind of hope I'll have a successful video company. And there's the interesting power. The longer you're in the game, the easier game gets, right? I always hear this Tony Robbins quote, we overestimate a year, underestimate a decade. That kid that was 18 that you hear in that audio had no clue what was possible in the big picture of things. And it wasn't through lots of trial and error and having no one really guide me or support me in the big picture from an internal game that I reached a point in 2010 where I was so stressed and overwhelmed and, burnt out and just scared and wanted to give up that I made a shift because I kind of didn't care anymore. But that shift in confidence, that shift in certainty, that shift in this is who I am, I called it the my way decision. Because for so long, I was following the path of everyone else. I was trying to copy what everybody else was doing. I thought it was the camera and the gear and the song and the this and the that is what made it great, what made me great. But when I realized that I was doing too many things that I didn't even love doing, that when I went all in on what I loved and my clients seemed to love, like the percentage, right? There was things I was doing, clients were kind of happy with, but I didn't love. So it was out of alignment. Then there was things that I did that I loved and my clients loved. When I eliminated all of the things that I didn't love, regardless of whether or not the client thought it was good or not, when I got in alignment with my way decision, I'm going to shoot, edit, dress, speak, act, pick out the songs, everything. And not in an arrogant, I never talked to people and said, it's my way or the highway. But there was this confidence and this certainty that allowed me to then shift and have that ability within 12 months to start working with these incredible clients, getting paid way more than we ever got paid or I ever got paid before. And it's been that. It wasn't that I looked totally different or I had gray hair now and I had some wrinkles and now I'm old and now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, people are going to take me seriously. Well, none of that happened. None of that happened. And I didn't buy new things. I went from offering 10 to 12 videos for weddings that would take 50 to 100 hours to complete down to the same price, so $3,500 for like 12 videos to $3,500 for this basically one video, this same day edit. And I started booking those like crazy. When for years I couldn't even get people to pay me anything for the same day edit. They wouldn't. I tried to add it on. They wouldn't pay for it. And that shift. So now instead of 50 to 100 hours, it took 20 hours. So I made more money. And so not always is more money or doing better, getting more free time going to come from just charging more. Because if you charge more, but you're automatically also increasing your hours astronomically. So if it took me 30 hours to make 3,000 and it takes me 60 hours to make 6,000, I'm still making the same kind of money. How do we take 30 hours, or the 50 hours or 100 hours at 3,500 down to the 20 hours for 3,500. So I didn't change my price. I just changed what I was delivering. But now it was more potent. It was more powerful. I didn't change any of the gear. I didn't change any of the cameras. I was still shooting at that point in time on Canon 5D Mark IIs. And I was still, now granted, there comes a time where things shift, right? When I first started, there was people still shooting on standard definition and holding strong to standard definition when HD was everything, right? There are shifts in the market that end up happening where we need to kind of jump ship onto the next thing. But right now, there's so much that's not discernibly different between a $1,800 camera and a $50,000 camera, right? In the big picture for the average person that's working on here. So anyways, overall, that's my 10 cents there, is that I have seen all the way up to, like I said, multi-million-dollar companies who are shooting on things like Sony A7Ss and A7 IIIs and those kinds of cameras, and they're getting clients to pay them a premium. My clients didn't care who I showed up with or what I showed up with. They wanted me, and they wanted what I would create, and however it took to create that. Now, again, there's specific situations where that is different. But for the majority listening, watching, whatever it is that you're doing, the majority are in situations where the client doesn't know and nor do they care, and it will be you that will be able to shift yourself, shift your perspective, shift your confidence, get more clear about what you do and what you don't, what you say yes to, what you don't say yes to, what you say no to. These things are powerful. And I've had many a client through the years where when they said what they wanted, and I said, well, that's great. If that's really what you want, then that's fine. I'm not your person. But this is what we do. And then I conveyed everything about what we do, why we do it. And if that's what that is what we do. And that's where I create excellence. And that is what you want to do for your clients. You want to be excellent. You do not want to be mediocre. If you were mediocre at something, you're going to get mediocre clients. You're going to get mediocre pay. It's going to all be mediocre. So now in the beginning, you have to try all sorts of things. You have to do all sorts of things. But that's even exactly when you're in the beginner state, you don't need to go $20, $30, $40, $50,000 into debt when you haven't figured out how to make any money. I believe everybody could have a $60,000+ production company off of less than $5,000 worth of gear. 100% without a shadow of a doubt. The cameras, the technology, if you're a good wizard, you can make phenomenal final products for people that will move the needle for their business and be able to be paid well for that. And it's very, very much in reach. I don't know that many circumstances where people need to have these really expensive cameras to make a living. So that's just my big thing. Work on, and that's every day what I'm working with on people, right? Because I've been through this now multiple times in my own life, having these confidence shifts and seeing how things just start to fall into place that, where were they before? It's because our life is a little woo-woo, but we're energetics. There is an energy. There is a vibration that's out there, and we vibrate in hunched over. Yeah, I don't know. $3,000? When we talk kind of slunched over and not confident about anything. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have this massive charisma that I'm having. Everybody's different. But do you have an internal confidence? Do you have a belief? Do you believe in what you're offering? Do you really believe? And I think the thing is, and we're doing things just because we can, it doesn't mean we should. We might not have an internal confidence about that particular thing. That's the problem. Right? That's the problem. We may not have, if we're doing something that just because we can doesn't mean we should, then that's going to be a thing we don't want to charge as much for because we're not quite sure. Is it going to work? Can I really do that? But when you have it doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter anything about you. When you know you're dang on good at what you do and you will present excellence to them in every part of the experience, that is when you can stand in your power and charge what you're worth. And whatever that is to whoever you're dealing with. But that's the shifts. We want these tactics. We want these external tactics. Is it a Facebook ad? Is it a bridal show? Is it a magazine ad? Is it a camera? Is it a lens? All these external tactics. And we wonder why, well, this person's using this camera, this person's using ads, this person's doing this. What are they doing on the external? And how are they getting that result? They'll ask me all the time, well, how do you get these clients? Well, I can say one thing that I really believe is that it's not from external tactics that I'm getting these clients. It is from the internal. Because people who are going to pay a premium, they want certainty, right? I'm not paying you $40,000 for a video that you're not quite sure that you can pull it off. I don't know. I've never done this before. Like, yes, there are always exceptions to the rule. But the person who's confident that they could do it, even though they haven't done it before, is a lot different than internally and externally. You have no idea if you can pull it off, and you're kind of conveying that in every way, shape, and form to the client. There's a weakness there, and that weakness is what lowers the rates, right? When you're a commodity, when you produce yourself as a Subway, as a fast food joint, where it's like, hey, I got cameras, and I got expensive cameras, I got cheap, it doesn't matter what I got, I'll do anything you need. When you're that way, you're more of a commodity. And when you're able to stand in your power, know what you're worth, believe in what you do, believe in who you are, believe in your product, have clarity and certainty about what you actually do, there is a power in that that does not happen any other way than just having it. Because a lot of times people can still have the camera, but they still don't believe. They're still not confident to charge the rates. Therefore, one person owns it, they're killing it, making tons of money, and they think, oh, that's the cure. Buy that camera. But they don't possess any self-worth, any self-confidence, any belief in what they do. They don't know what the product is. And so as a byproduct, they have this big block that is worthless to them, right? And so anyways, anybody in here, if you've been enjoying this, give it some likes and love. If you have any questions before I get off here, let me know. This is the kind of work that I'm doing on a regular basis with the, videographers and filmmakers that I'm coaching and working with. I'm not working with them on tactics and the external and the Facebook ads and all. That's all fine and dandy. There's a necessary component. But after years and years of filming events and workshops for people and seeing people go from course to course and workshop to workshop and having their life ever be any different and not making any more money, but they continue to spend the money, it's not because these tactics don't work. It's that you're a fish climbing a tree and therefore it doesn't work for you. It doesn't mean it doesn't work. And so there's certain things that just don't work for certain situations and certain people. So the context matters. But more than anything, if we work on ourselves fundamentally and internally and our confidence and our belief and our certainty, and we get clear about what it is that we do, who we do it for, what to say yes and no to, these things are game changer. Game changer. So all that being said, send me a message wherever it is. You can go to jumpstartsessions.net. You can find me on Facebook. But send me a message if you just would like to have a dialogue, see what that looks like. I have a number of ways that I work with people, but I really, 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 really love doing this work. And there's just nothing that I guess because I have so much pain that I've worked through for myself around the debt that I accumulated from purchasing external things that I thought would bring me joy and happiness and change my life and make me more money. In fact, it did the complete opposite. It put me in a ton of debt. It didn't make me more money. It paid tons of money in interest and all these things. And when you're young and you're just starting out, well, the reality is you may just need to learn that thing on your own. But some of you who may be a little bit older, been at this for a number of years, you're like, enough is enough, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I would love the honor and the opportunity to be able to collaborate on that and see how we can help, find your sweet spot, build up that confidence again, and get you rocking and rolling. So, anywho, God dang. And I also do, of course, if any of you want to be on the Jumpstart Sessions podcast, be sure, I think people listen to the episodes and they don't quite, get, you can do an episode with me for free right now. Obviously you can listen to all the other episodes. Some of you listen, jumpstartsessions.net, get coached on the podcast. There's a button, simple form, then you can schedule the call and we rock it out and we have a conversation. There's 18 plus episodes out at the recording of this for you to listen to and see how people at different levels interact. And all of them have taken a behavioral profiling assessment, and you can take that on the site. Jumpstartsessions.net has everybody that I did a call with, and on their page, It has their assessment. You can take that same assessment to see the results. There's a big difference in certain people and what they've been achieving and the money that they've been making, because certain people are possessing this confidence and others aren't. And certain personality types tend to lean into certain things more than others. And so that's a big thing, that if you don't understand how you're wired, you're going to be a head of lettuce hammering nails rather than making a salad. And if you did that, you'd be winning, right? If you're on a NASCAR track and you're driving around with a little car that goes 80 miles an hour and looking around confused, you wouldn't be in real life. But metaphorically, again, we're looking around confused. Why is this not working? I've done all the right things. And there's too many people who I know, give me a hell yes, rock and roll, who have all the right ingredients. You have all the right ingredients and you are not broken. You have all the right ingredients. But right now, you don't have the freaking how to make it, right? It's supposed to be for 20 minutes at 350 and you've thrown it in there for 40 minutes at 450 and it's nuking it, right? A little bit too much salt, it's not tasting as good anymore, right? You leave the flour out of bread, it doesn't rise. So there's these things where we have the right ingredients, but we need to know how to make the mixture to make the best cake, to make the best thing. And all it takes is those few little tweaks. And I love to energize and find those little tweaks, those little levers that need to be pulled so that, boom, you can accelerate fast. Because when you're confused and you're stuck and you're lost, you do not move fast, you move slow. Because you do not know where to go, because it's as if you're driving down the road looking through your rearview mirror. You wouldn't drive that fast. If you were driving down the highway where there's tons of cars you could hit and tons of things to run into, and it's torrential downpour and you can't see 3 feet in front of your car, if you have any intelligence about you, you're not going to be driving 90 miles an hour, right? But if it's crystal clear, you know where everything is in front of you, open highway, you're going to take off. And that's what I love to help people do. Take off. Crystal clear highway, move forward with confidence. You know what's in front of you and you can navigate it. You can see when things are coming up and you can navigate it. But when you're lost and confused, I can tell you it sucks from my own life and honestly the lives of many of the people that I've seen who are sick and tired of being stuck. And again, if you're new to the whole thing, you probably don't have that much pain. You're just having a good time. I remember when my 3 buddies would go out and we'd drive 8 hours to end up in some town and get paid $250 for the whole day, and we had a blast. And it's true. And so depending on where you're at, if you're young and 18 and live in your parents' basement and need $800 a month to survive, live it up, rock it out, have a blast, save like a mofo and put a ton away, because true freedom isn't the amount of money you make. It's the amount of money you keep. Because I know plenty of people who make tons of money and they have no money. I've been one of those people. I was great at making money. And for a long time, I was dreadful at keeping that money. And then I know people who can't figure out how to make any money, but they save like they're gonna die tomorrow, And so it's a really, really fascinating thing. But I love coming to the angle, especially for the filmmakers, videographers, on kind of the behavior and the personality and the mindset. Because to me, if you've got that foundation, you're unstoppable, and you can really, 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 really achieve absolutely anything. So rock and roll, my friends. Have an absolutely amazing rest of your day, and I look forward to jump-starting some of you in the future. So rock and roll. We'll talk soon.